If a man could look into the future, into the version of himself that exists 5 years after he walked away from you, he would not see a man who has forgotten you. He would see a man who has become a quiet monument to his own mistake. He would see a man who lives a life built on a lie that he is better off, that he is happier, that he is truly free. But in the silent, unguarded moments of his life, he would see himself haunted by a ghost, not of you, but of the man he was supposed to become with you. This is the truth of a man's most profound regret. It is not a heartbreak that heals. It is a psychological amputation of his own potential. You see, the woman he regrets losing is not merely a former lover. She is the anima he failed to integrate. Carl Jung taught that every man carries within his unconscious mind a feminine archetype, the anima, representing his soul, his emotional landscape, and his capacity for relatedness. The woman who catalyzes this deep, unspoken regret is often the one who, by her very presence, held a mirror to his soul. She was the one who could speak the language of his inner world, a language he didn't even know he spoke. He saw his own repressed emotions reflected in her grace, his own longing in her independence, his own buried spirituality in her quiet strength. This connection, this sacred recognition, was both his greatest gift and his most terrifying fear. She was the doorway to his own soul, and his uninitiated ego could not handle the vastness of the journey that lay beyond. When he lost her, he didn't just lose a person, he lost the bridge to his own soul. His ego, fragile and uninitiated, could not tolerate the vulnerability she demanded. It could not endure the confrontation with his own shadow, the jealousy, the anger, the unresolved trauma that her light inevitably revealed. He chose the comfort of his familiar fortress, the ego's false sense of control, over the terrifying freedom of genuine emotional intimacy. He chose to abandon the part of him that was truly alive, that was capable of love and deep connection, because the price of admission was facing himself. He chose the shallow praise of the world over the profound love of a woman who saw him completely. And so, his regret becomes a ghost that haunts the empty rooms of his psyche. He will find other women, but they will all feel like stand-ins, projections of an idealized feminine he once had access to but can no longer reach. He will try to fill the void with success, with fleeting pleasures, with the hollow validation of others, but the space where she once was will remain. This is the cruel irony of his choice. In his desperate attempt to protect his ego, he condemned himself to a life of emotional starvation. He lives in a world of muted colors, of half-truths, always listening for the echo of a laugh he can no longer hear, feeling the ghost of a touch he can no longer remember. This is the quiet suffering of a man who chose his pride over his soul, and the shadow of that choice follows him in every silent moment. You see, for him, the loss is not a wound that heals with time, it is an amputation of his own potential. She was the doorway to his higher self, and he slammed it shut. He will never admit it, not to you, not to his friends, and certainly not to himself in the quiet of the night. He is a man who walks through life with a missing piece, and the ghost of her memory is the only thing that reminds him that he was once, for a fleeting moment, whole. His regret is not a noble sorrow, it is a self-imposed affliction. The pain he feels is not born of a heart truly broken, but of an ego that has been fatally injured. The deepest anguish is not for her, but for the man he failed to become in her presence. He saw a glimmer of his potential, a glimpse of a life where he was emotionally courageous, deeply connected, and spiritually whole, and in a moment of existential panic, he recoiled from it. His pain, therefore, is the consequence of his own resistance to his higher self. It is the psychic echo of the path not taken, a constant, low-frequency hum of what could have been. He is still trying to fill the void, but his methods are frantic and desperate. He might pursue a new partner, but he will unconsciously select someone who requires less of him, someone who will not threaten the fragile piece of his ego. He is not looking for a lover, he is looking for a distraction, a human sedative to numb the ache of her memory. But this is a temporary fix, a futile attempt to mend a spiritual wound with a psychological band-aid. His conversations with this new partner will lack the depth, the raw honesty, the spiritual intimacy that he once had. He will find himself performing the role of a loving partner, but the audience is always his own internal critic, the part of him that knows the truth. This is the tragedy of a man addicted to external validation. He builds a life that looks impressive to the world, but it is an empty shell, a beautiful lie designed to conceal the truth of his inner poverty. For you, this emotional freedom is not a gift, it is a discipline. You have embraced a kind of stoic philosophy in your recovery, a profound and quiet understanding that you have no control over the actions, feelings, or choices of another human being. This is the cornerstone of your newfound power. You understand that his regret is his to carry, his lesson to learn, his burden to bear. It is no longer your job to save him from himself, to be the emotional crutch for a man who refused to walk on his own. This realization is the ultimate liberation. It is the emotional and psychological equivalent of unshackling yourself from a heavy chain. This discipline allows you to turn your attention entirely inward. You are now the master of your own inner world. The chaos that once defined your emotional landscape, the anxiety of waiting, the frustration of his inconsistency of it, has been replaced by a deep and abiding sense of inner peace. This peace is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. You feel your feelings, but you do not allow them to control you. You practice the art of radical self-acceptance, realizing that your worth is not a negotiation with anyone, but an undeniable fact of your existence. This is the feminine power he feared and failed to understand. It is not loud or aggressive. It is quiet, deep, and unshakable. It is the wisdom of a woman who knows her own mind, feels her own heart, and walks her own path, completely unburdened by the expectation of anyone else's approval. He lives in a world of frantic activity, constantly seeking external rewards to quiet the voice of his regret. He is still fighting a war with himself that he can never win. You, meanwhile, have laid down your weapons. You have declared peace with yourself. You are no longer in a relationship with him or his memory or the ghost of what could have been. You are in a sacred relationship with yourself, and that relationship is the wellspring from which all your future power, love, and joy will flow. This is the great and profound divergence of your two paths. One remains trapped in the labyrinth of his own ego, while the other has found the way out and is walking into the sun. His regret is a passive form of suffering, a psychological paralysis. It is not an active grief that motivates him to change, to heal, to seek a better way. Instead, it is a quiet, constant presence that reinforces his inertia. He is like a man standing on the shore, watching his ship of possibility sail away, and instead of building a new one, he simply stands there, year after year, marveling at the empty horizon. His internal world has become a museum of what could have been, and he is the sole curator. He continues to search for love, but his search is tainted by this ghost. He projects her qualities onto every new woman he meets, seeking the same fire in different eyes, the same spiritual depth in a different soul. But it is always an illusion. The women he chooses sense this emotional distance, this quiet, unspoken presence in the room. They feel his half-hearted engagement, his subconscious reservation, the part of him that is always measuring them against the standard of the woman he let go. They are not loved for who they are, but for how they reflect the image of the anima he so carelessly abandoned. This is the tragic cycle he is condemned to repeat, an endless search for a mirror to his soul in a world he has rendered flat and colorless. Meanwhile, you are doing the real work. Your journey is not one of passive suffering, but of active and intentional growth. You have taken the fragments of the past and begun the sacred, painstaking work of individuation. This is the process of becoming your whole self, separate and complete, no longer defined by your relationship to a man, a family, or society's expectations. You are no longer his anima projection, you are your own sovereign entity. You have taken the pain of your experience and used it as a guidepost. The emotional wounds, the moments of confusion, the tears you shed, they were not signs of weakness. They were your teachers, pointing you toward the very parts of yourself that needed to be loved, healed, and integrated. You have embraced the concept of shadow work, but not from a place of forced darkness. You have turned your compassionate gaze inward toward the parts of yourself you were taught to suppress. The anger you weren't allowed to express, the ambition you were told was too much, the wildness you were asked to tame. You are now befriending these parts, integrating them, and realizing that they are not flaws, but untapped sources of power. This is the feminine warrior energy he feared and fled from. It is the raw, unbridled strength of a woman who is not afraid of her own depths. You are building an inner world so vast, so rich, so deeply known, that no man's presence or absence can threaten its integrity. Your healing is not about forgiving him. It is about a deeper, more profound act, forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself for the emotional debt you were carrying, for believing your worth was something you had to earn, for giving so much of your sacred energy to a man who did not have the courage to receive it. This act of self-forgiveness is the final release. It is the moment you finally lay down the burden of a love that was not meant for you and pick up the mantle of your own divine purpose. You are no longer waiting for an apology that will never come, for a validation that is not yours to demand. You are simply living, breathing, and existing as the masterpiece of your own creation. You have become your own sanctuary, your own source of wisdom, and your own greatest love. This is the profound divergence of your two paths. He remains trapped in the labyrinth of his own ego, endlessly searching for a ghost he created. You, meanwhile, have found the way out and are building a kingdom in the sun, a life of purpose and profound inner peace that is entirely your own. The most painful part of his regret is not in the moments when he misses you, it is in the quiet, unbearable moments when he witnesses your profound and undeniable peace. He cannot help but look. In the sterile, detached world of social media, he is a compulsive observer, searching for some sign of your suffering, some proof that his absence left a wound. He needs to believe that you are lost without him. It is a desperate, ego-driven need to justify his own emotional paralysis. But what he finds instead is a woman who is not only surviving, but thriving in a way that is utterly foreign to him. He sees a glow in your eyes that is not the reflection of a man's love, but the incandescent light of your own self-possession. This is the psychological poison to his ego. Your peace is his condemnation. Your freedom invalidates his entire narrative. It forces him to confront the cruel and unforgiving truth. He didn't just lose you, he lost a woman who became a masterpiece without him. He sees you living a life of vibrant, authentic joy-taking on new projects, building new friendships, and finding a deep well of happiness within yourself, and it shatters the foundation of his reality. He chose the path of least resistance, the path of comfort and ego protection, and he now sees with terrifying clarity the magnificent woman that path prevented him from knowing. Her transformation is a public, undeniable testament to his error, and he can do nothing but watch from a distance, a man trapped in his own regret. You see, for him, it is the return of the anima he left behind, but now she is no longer a projection. She is a fully realized, sovereign being, and the sight of her is a constant, brutal reminder of his own stagnation. He is still in the same place, fighting the same internal battles, his life feeling just as empty as the day he left. But you have ascended. You have taken the pain he inflicted and used it as the very fuel for your rebirth. You have become a woman who can't be held, who can't be contained, who can't be defined by another's love or lack of it. This is your power. It is not aggressive or vengeful. It is quiet, deep, and absolutely unshakable. He will never admit this to you, or to his new partner, or even to himself. He will continue to perform the role of the successful, well-adjusted man. But in the late hours of the night, when the masks are off and the silence of his fortress is absolute, the image of your smile, of your unburdened joy, will return to him. He will feel the phantom limb of his own missing soul, the part of him that was truly alive in your presence. This is the shadow he refused to face, and now it has been given form. Her happiness is his quiet punishment. It is the inescapable, emotional consequence of a man who chose to be a king of a barren land rather than a partner in a blossoming kingdom. Your goal was never to make him regret you. Your only goal was to heal yourself. But in the process of your healing, you created the very thing that his ego will find most intolerable. You created a living, breathing testament to the idea that you were never his to begin with. You were always your own, and your power, your joy, and your peace were never dependent on his choice to stay or go. Your life has become the most perfect form of karmic justice, and he is the sole, silent witness to its unfolding. His regret is the psychological purgatory he created for himself. a desolate landscape he is condemned to wander alone. But for you, the journey has long since moved past him. You have reached a point where the memory of him, once a source of pain or a silent trigger for unresolved feelings, is now just a faded photograph in the album of your past. He is no longer the central character in your story. He is merely an antecedent, a necessary catalyst for the profound transformation that was always waiting for you. The emotional cord that once bound you to his presence and his absence has been severed, not by force, but by the quiet, unwavering power of your own inner work. You are no longer in a state of reaction. You are in a state of creation. Your energy, once spent in waiting, hoping, or analyzing his behavior, is now fully invested in building a life of purpose, joy, and deep self-respect. This is the essence of emotional sovereignty, the understanding that your emotional state is your own, a sacred territory that no one, not even a ghost from your past, has the right to trespass on. You have integrated the pain, the loneliness, the moments of despair, and they have not broken you. They have become the very substance of your wisdom. You now carry a quiet confidence that is unshakable, because it was forged not in the heat of a man's love, but in the solitude of your own self-discovery. This is the very essence of Senecan Stoicism in action. You have accepted the external, even this choice to leave as something beyond your control. The universe presented you with a difficult trial, and instead of lamenting it, you chose to rise to it. You understood that the only thing within your power was your response, your virtue, and your inner state. You chose courage over despair, self-possession over frantic chasing. Your victory is not that he regrets you. Your victory is that his regret is utterly irrelevant to your peace. The woman he knew, the woman who was so invested in him, no longer exists. She has been shed like old skin, replaced by a new, more powerful iteration of yourself. This new woman is not defined by who she loves, but by who she is. Your journey is no longer a path of healing from a wound, but a celebration of the strength and resilience you discovered in the process. Your inner world is a garden you have tended with care and intention. You have nurtured your passions, honored your needs, and stood guard at the gates of your own spirit. This inner peace is not a fragile state. It is your greatest strength, an emotional shield against the petty dramas of the outside world. It is the kind of quiet, powerful feminine energy that is not a beacon for attention, but a magnet for authenticity. The regret that haunts him is no longer your concern. It is his to own, his to sit with, his to learn from or be consumed by. You have given yourself the gift of complete emotional release, not for him, but for your own sacred journey. You have understood that the woman who is a complete universe unto herself has no need to chase a star that has long since fallen. She simply stands in her own light. And so, the man is left with his regretter, silent, gnawing presence that will likely never find a voice. He is a prisoner in a fortress of his own making, his ego a cage he built to protect himself from the very woman who could have set him free. He will always feel that emptiness, that subtle disconnect from his own heart, because the key to unlocking it was a woman he chose to walk away from. His is a life of half-truths and emotional compromise, forever haunted by the shadow of the man he failed to be. This is the anima's curse, the constant, subconscious pull toward a soul he knows exists, but is now forever out of reach. He regrets losing her, not just because he loved her, but because her presence was the only thing that allowed him to love himself. But for you, the story has a different ending. You have reached the summit of your own personal mountain, and the view is spectacular. You look back not with bitterness or longing, but with the clear-eyed wisdom of a woman who understands that some endings are necessary beginnings. Your victory is not in making him regret his choice, but in realizing that his choice was the very thing that liberated you from a life of emotional codependence. You have learned that your happiness is not a lottery ticket to be won or lost based on a man's affection. It is a birthright, a sacred covenant you make with yourself. The emptiness he feels is a direct result of his inability to love his own soul. The fullness you feel is a result of your courage to love yours. You are no longer a woman in search of a partner. You are a woman in a deep, profound relationship with herself. You have learned the language of your own heart, the landscape of your own soul, and the strength of your own purpose. You have integrated your trauma, embraced your shadow, and emerged as a whole, complete person, You don't need to be chosen because you have already chosen yourself. The love you have for yourself is the most powerful and magnetic force in the universe, an energy that does not seek, but attracts. You are a woman who radiates authenticity, and that radiance is a light that draws in those who are emotionally mature enough to stand in its presence. You have transcended the need for external validation, and in doing so, you have found a peace that surpasses all understanding. You are a woman who is unafraid to be alone, because you know you are never truly alone. The voice of your own soul, once a whisper, is now the most trusted guide in your life. The quiet confidence you carry is the proof that you have walked through your own fire and emerged, not broken, but transformed. He is left with the silent tragedy of his choice, but you have been given the gift of your own magnificent, sovereign life. The woman he lost was the one who could have saved him, but the woman you have become has saved herself. If this journey into the quiet power of your soul resonated with you, subscribe for more. Remember, a woman becomes her most powerful self not when she finds love, but when she becomes it.